Welcome to everybody who's tuned in to learn a little bit more about course registration at the University of Baltimore. I am joined by a couple of wonderful folks, and so we're going to start off by introducing ourselves. My name is Pavan Perswani, and I'm the coordinator of Transitions and Community Engagement. That's that awkward moment when you forget your title while you're introducing yourself. And I'm going to ask the other folks around the table to introduce themselves, tell us kind of who you are, what you do, and then I'm going to ask you two fun questions. What's your favorite Halloween treat, and what's your favorite music video?
You can go first.
Oh, thanks. I'm Morgan Brown. I'm a student supervisor in community engagement and transitions. Oh, that's bad too. I just help out around the office and stuff. My favorite Halloween treat, well, Snickers. I can't really eat them anymore. Like my teeth are so sensitive at this point, it's really sad. And music video, let me think. This early 2000 Chris Brown, like most of them, he just did really good in production. Like they were great.
I would not have guessed that as your choice.
He did really good videos. His I think Wall to Wall was like that was lit.
Hi, I'm Kathia Smith. I'm the Assistant Dean for Undergraduate Things, as I officially call myself because it's a lot of different stuff that I do. But I'm from the Merrick School of Business, and my favorite Halloween treat is a Three Musketeers Dark. And my favorite music video, I'm going to go in the way back to Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror.
I will weigh in on this very important topic and tell you that Reese's are, in my opinion, the best Halloween candy.
They stopped making them?
What now?
They stopped making Reese's. Either Reese's or Reese's Pieces. They stopped making.
I think it's Reese's Pieces, because Reese's and I would be like protesting right now. And then my favorite music video, there's a lot of different ones I would choose, so I'm going to choose Changes by Tupac. In that the last time that song came on in my car, my wife started crying.
What?
She's pregnant, so that might have had something to do with it, but there you go. That is my life story. Okay, so can you drop that a little bit? So we're here to talk about course registration. We want everybody to like and share this video if you know people who are interested. And the first 15 people who ask questions will be getting a prize. And we actually had our first question come in, and so we're going to swing to that. And so, what time do first year graduate students register for classes? I'm going to turn this one over to Kathia, who may have an answer.
Sure. So students are able to register based upon how many credits they have. So if you're in your first semester of being either undergrad or a grad student, you can register starting November 9th. You're able to actually see that in your student portal. When you log in, on the kind of bottom right-hand side of the page, there's a little box that tells you exactly when you're able to register. So check that out and register as soon as it opens for you.
Yeah. The other thing is we're going to talk about a bunch of different things about course registration tonight. Unfortunately, the way that we broadcast with Facebook Live, we can't do a screen share, but there's actually a wonderful how-to guide. If you go to the Office of Records and Registration's website, they have a bunch of different how-to guides, and one of them is how to enroll in a course. And so definitely check that out. It's a super useful tutorial, and so as other questions come in, we'll go ahead and prompt to those, but we also have some questions that students have already supplied to us, and so we'll go ahead and continue with that. And so, Kathia, you kind of talked about the process, but can you just run us through like when students can begin registering for the spring in terms of credit hours that they've earned?
Sure. So we'll start with the undergrad students first. If you have 100 plus credits, so this means you're getting close to graduation, you can start registering on November the 6th. If you've got 75 credits or more, but less than 100, November 7th. 60 credits is November 8th, and then November 9th for everybody else. If you're a grad student and you've got 24 or more credits, also getting close to graduation, November 6th. 15 to 24 is November 7th. 6 or more, November 8th. And then again, all brand new students on November the 9th.
So Morgan, any kind of stories you want to share about course registration that you've gone through?
I currently have too many electives, like the majority of my credits that I do have are electives, because I'm a transfer, so I came during like decision day, so that was the first time I met with my advisor, and she pretty much set up my classes for me, because she was like, here are the classes that you need for like gen ed, and so I was like, this is great, now I know what I need to do, and so I just started clicking classes because I didn't go back to advising, and so now I have more electives, but luckily my advisor, Tony, gave me a checklist of what I need, so now I just go through the checklist and just knock them out that way. But yeah, go to your advisor, please.
Very good advice, and we'll probably be revisiting that later on in this conversation. One of the last things I'll say, and Michael Jones actually said this when he came in and spoke in my IDIS 101 class, he talked about how you can wait a little while to schedule classes if you don't want like your perfect schedule, but if you want your classes at the best times possible, make sure you get in on those days, because they will fill up quickly, and then you're going to have to move things around in your schedule. So if the timing of your courses is particularly important to you, make sure you're jumping in as soon as you're able to start enrolling. So kind of continuing on that, oftentimes we'll hear from students asking what's preventing them. So they'll go in and they'll say, oh, something has popped up and it's telling me I can't schedule. So what are some things that might prevent a student from being able to schedule a class or register for classes?
Money.
So say more about that.
Money is the biggest one. Because UB lets you, is different, like they let you pay for your tuition kind of during the semester, like it's not, most universities you have to pay all of your money beforehand. UB lets you pay during the semester, do like payment plans or whatever, but if you still haven't paid the rest of your tuition, you can't register for the next semester until you finish paying off this semester. So that is usually the biggest one that I know of.
Yeah, so most students are running into financial aid holds or billing office holds. So make sure that you've paid your bill, that's the first thing, or that you have a payment plan in place and work something out with student accounts. Make sure that you've submitted everything for financial aid or accepted any scholarship awards. That's really, really important. The other holds that might come up is if you have a probation hold. If you happen to be put on probation on a previous semester, you're going to have to come in and see your advisor and have them lift that hold. You might also have a hold from needing to take the math placement test or other things like that we just don't want you to get too far down the path and take things out of sequence.
I didn't know that was a thing.
There you go. That's exactly why we do these.
Other
The other things that I would add to this is plagiarism and Haven, particularly for early students who are just enrolling. Those are two things that often catch up. Particularly the plagiarism hold, because I think most students have now had to take Haven, but plagiarism can prevent you from moving forward. So make sure you're taking that portal and getting that kind of process done. So now that we've kind of talked about those things, we can get into a little bit more about how to make sure that you're taking the appropriate classes. And so you talked a little bit about taking electives that you thought were going to count and maybe don't. And so what's the best way for students to know that they're making sure that they're taking the appropriate classes?
See your advisor. We can't say it often enough. See your advisor. You can sit down with your advisor every single semester and plot out your courses and make sure that you're staying on track, taking things in the right sequence. Your advisor's probably going to know if there's a new course that's coming into use that hasn't been maybe announced publicly yet. So they're the ones that can give you the scoop on what you can take and what's available, or what might be coming down the pike that you can start planning for in future semesters. So see your advisor.
Excellent. Just a quick note on that, particularly around this time, advisors' schedules start to really fill up because there are folks who are being proactive, and so if you have not scheduled to meet with them yet, you want to jump on that. Shoot them an email and make sure that you're getting on their calendar, or use whatever their preferred method for scheduling is, just because I know some folks prefer to have you call into the office. And so just make sure that you're getting on that, because scheduling is starting to open up soon, and the longer you wait, the harder it is to get in to see somebody. So we're going to kind of continue on this trend and go into a little bit more of a broad question, and I guess we can kind of infer what we want from this, but how does a student know what classes they should want to take? So maybe if they are not sure what they want to major in, or just aren't fully decided. So what's a good way to start determining what classes they want to take?
Gen Ed, which Gen Eds are mandatory, but they also do help kind of figure out if you're undecided what major you want to do. There are also a lot of like intro classes you can take. Intro to business. I took intro to accounting. Now, granted, I was a business major, so that was part of the program. But that class quickly told me that I was not going to be a business major anymore. Accounting killed me. So gen ed and intro classes are a good start. They're not like terribly hard, so you're not crying the whole time, but it does let you know that this is not a good job for you.
So I'm going to suggest that you A, talk to your advisor, but it's my mantra. But B, go talk to the folks in the Career Center. They have a lot of great tools. If you're really super undecided about what field you want to go into, you can take an inventory to see maybe what skills that you have are matched to particular industries. Or if you know maybe you want to be in business, but you're not sure what part of business, because there's a lot of things to business, there are specific industry specialists that you can sit down with, and they can talk you through all the different facets of whatever you're interested in. And that might be able to help you pick a major or a subplan or a specialization, something that can narrow it down, and then you work with your advisor to help pick the classes that fit into that plan.
Excellent. Very good advice there. Always, the Career and Professional Development Center is a great resource for a lot of different facets. I want to remind everybody who's watching to make sure you're liking and sharing the video so more people can see it and get this information. I also want to remind everybody that the first 15 people who ask questions during this broadcast that apply are going to get a prize from our office. And we have been known to give out t-shirts, notebooks, lots of fun stuff. So keep that up. And so we're going to get into one more question, and then we'll kind of shift into a little bit of a commercial break. We talked about the importance of seeing an advisor. I think that I wish there was something that could flash in the room every time we saw it said, see your advisor, because I think it's like the secret word of the day. But just to clarify, does a student have to see an advisor prior to scheduling? And does that change based on the specific parameters of that student?
I'll answer that one because you are so gung-ho on it. Don't have to see an advisor. But what I do is I see my advisor once academic year just to make sure that I'm on track. I usually do it in spring, so we'll be scheduling my appointment soon. But I usually just do it once a year because if I can get like an overview of the next year or this current school year, then I'm pretty good for both semesters. You don't have to, but you should. She'll tell you why.
In a very general sense, yes. The answer is no. You do not have to see your advisor prior to registering. However, certain groups of students that have a hold, or certain programs as you're nearing graduation may require you to meet with your advisor. So you could shoot them a quick email and just say, hey, am I good to go? You're always welcome to meet with your advisor via email. That's totally fine, especially if it's just a quick question, or you want to say, hey, these are the 4 classes I'm looking at. How does this sound? We're happy to meet with you in any way that works for your schedule. We know you're busy. So, no, you don't have to, but we strongly encourage you to see your advisor.
Just a quick note, she said you email. I email my advisor all the time, like I'm kind of annoying about it. So technically, I guess I do see my advisor all the time, just not in person. Good, yeah, so listen to her.
And the proactive piece of that, I think, is the most important, is like the way that you can have the most control and be aware of as much as possible is staying in communication like you're talking about. So that is a very good strategy. So, like I said, we're going to transition into a quick commercial. I have a couple of things to talk about just to give you some more information. So like I said before, I teach a first-year seminar, and recently we were talking in class, and one of the things that came up was a number of students were like, I want to be involved on campus, but I don't know how or when things are happening. And so it got me thinking about 2 great resources that I wanted to make sure that we talked about. So one being OrgSync. So if you sign into your MyUB portal, on the right-hand side of the page, just like it kind of shows on the screen behind me, there's something called OrgSync, and you can log into it, create an account, and then you're connected to all of the different student organizations on campus. It has an internal calendar for those events. Our office has a section, the Office of Transitions and Community Engagement, where you can learn about the events we're hosting. The Center for Student Involvement is on there, and so it's a great resource. It's also a way to find out about clubs that you might be interested in. The other one, and this is one that we all get, but I have it on good authority that it often finds trash boxes in people's emails pretty quickly is the Daily Digest. And so I know that sometimes those rack up and it's really easy to hit delete and just pass forward through them. But the amount of events that are listed in there that are really super helpful to know about are definitely important. It's definitely important to check out. You'd be surprised how many cool things are happening on campus. Particularly next week, there's actually going to be a Native American powwow that's happening on campus, as well as there's a trip sponsored by the Office of Diversity and the Diversity and Culture Center to take a trip into DC to visit the Museum of Native American History. And so really cool options. The only reason I know about that is because I looked at the Daily Digest, and so worth checking out. The other thing I'm going to talk briefly about is the UB Campus Pantry and our senior support campaign that's going on. And so you may have seen this on social media. There is currently a campaign during the month of October for the Campus Pantry to try to raise $1,000 to help stock the shelves. We've been doing a really great job thus far. We're about 60% of the way to our goal. And so we really want to see us hit that $1,000 goal. And so behind me you can see a couple pictures of offices or individuals who have accepted the challenge. And so the challenge is that you record a video of yourself lip syncing, you make a small donation to the Campus Pantry, and then you challenge other folks. And I just got breaking news that we're actually up to $685, so we are $315 away from our goal, and we have about 5 days left. And so plenty of time, and that is really exciting news because the Campus Pantry does a lot of great things for this campus. And we'll use a little bit of a foreshadowing there because we'll talk about one of the things that we'll be sponsoring a little later on in November at our next break. So let's get back into the questions now. And so I had a late question to add, but I think it's important, particularly for some of the students who maybe are newer to this process. And so how many credits are needed to declare a major, and how long can you wait to declare a major if you're not sure yet?
Well, 24 credits and completion of your any foundational classes, English or math, that you have to take. If you didn't have to take any and you've hit the 24 credit mark and you know what you want to declare, then declare it. There is no reason to wait, especially if you know what you want to major in. So definitely do that as early as possible. Then you'll be shifted over to be advised by the particular college that you are majoring in, and they can help you kind of lay out that path for the rest of your time at UB. If you don't know quite yet which way you want to go, and that's okay, go to the Career Center, talk to them, they'll help you out. But then you have up to 45 credits in which you need to declare your major.
And the important thing there is the longer you wait, the more that you might have to stick around longer. And a lot of times, we talked about financial implications earlier. People obviously want to get through and get their degree as quickly as they can and kind of get on to the next challenge that they're looking for. And so the more strategic you are and the quicker that you declare, the quicker you can get to graduation, which I know is an important goal for a lot of folks who are watching. So kind of along that same lines, let's say it's your second or third year and it's hard to remember your first year here. And so what's a good way to remember the amount of credits you've taken, and where can you go to check that information?
You can see it in your unofficial transcript. This is like a long process to get there. So you go to My Student Center, and then I have to show because this is a lot. And then you go to Academics, and in Academics there'll be just like a link. It'll say View My Unofficial Transcript, and you click that, and then you click you just click Go, and then you'll scroll all the way down. It'll have your current classes that you're taking, and it'll have at the bottom how many credits you'll have after the current semester you're in, or you can just look at the previous one and subtract, and that's how many credits you have currently.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add? Or?
No, it's always a good idea to keep an eye on your unofficial transcript, especially if you know or maybe didn't know that you were getting an incomplete in a class. It's really, really important that you work with your professors to make sure that you change those incompletes over to really good letter grades like A's and B's, because they convert to F's if you don't do it by the deadline. So we don't want that to happen. So always make sure you check your transcript. And then within your student portal, you're able to see your degree audit. And I'm foreshadowing the next question, I know. But your degree audit is a system that almost every college has as a way to keep track of how you're progressing through your program. So when you look at your degree audit, you'll see your general education classes at the top, and then it'll typically go into your major requirements, specialization requirements, and then down at the bottom, it'll be checking to make sure that you have the right GPA, so 2.0 or greater in order to graduate. And then at the very bottom, it'll show you classes that might not be used because you didn't get the right grade, or you've transferred in something that doesn't quite fit. So your degree audit also shows you whether you've satisfied a requirement and then how many credits you have left. So it's a great place to keep track of the number of electives that you need to take, or see your options for a particular course. If you can choose between courses A, B, and C, you can find all of that information in your degree audit. And last but not least, all of your advisors keep an updated checklist just to make sure that we're staying on track, because sometimes if you don't submit a transcript from a community college, let's say you got permission to take something off campus, if we don't get that transcript, it's not going to show up in your degree audit.
Where is the audit located?
It's in your student portal under academics. Yep.
Okay, so we actually had another question come in from the audience, and so I want to continue for folks to continue to offer those up, because this is how it's most useful. Can we have that question come back? So the question is there a way that students can request more options as far as days and times for a course to be offered? I'm going to lean over here for that.
So scheduling is a huge, huge part of my job, and it is like Tetris, the Tetris of abstract art, if you will. There's both an art and a science to how we put together the schedule, and there are a ton of variables that go into it. So it's not a case of we try to make it the easiest schedule for faculty members. We actually ask them to adjust their lives quite a bit to what we offer. However, if you want to suggest that, hey, we really need this class on a Tuesday night because we've got this other class on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, and it conflicts and everybody's going to need this, tell your assistant dean or tell your advisor, and they're happy to pass along that information. We can't guarantee it's going to happen, certainly not if registration's in the works necessarily, but we always like to get that information. Or if there's a class that's currently only available in a face-to-face format, and you're like, wow, we'd really like it if we could get that class online, suggest it to your advisor, and they will happily pass that up the chain. And we always try to do our best to make a schedule that works for all of our students.
And that brings up a good point just in a more general sense. If there's something that you're struggling with at UB, or there's a change that you want to see, make sure that you're bringing that up to somebody, because a lot of times it's very easy for us not to know if we don't get that feedback. And so, like you said before, we can't change everything immediately, but that's how change happens. And so make sure you're bringing up those things to somebody who's willing to listen, because there is a lot of us around here who want to make sure that we're doing everything we can for you. I want to congratulate the first two people who asked questions. You will be getting an email from me in terms of some prizes, and there's still 13 left, so keep those coming. We'll kind of stay in that theme of classes and timing, and so how should a student who's maybe new to course registration go about finding out about what classes are available? Obviously there's a ton of them, but where can you find that information at?
It depends. You can do enroll or search. I usually do search before I enroll just to see what's available. It's, again, in the student center, and then you go to academics, and then you'll click, there's 4 tabs, it's like search, enroll, and 2 other ones. I forget the other 2. But you can click search, and then they'll actually like which academic semester, what do you call that, the subject, and then you just click search, and they'll give you all of the classes offered, the times, the days in that class or whatever, and they'll tell you like the teachers who's there, the classroom. Usually the closer you are to the actual first day, stuff will be like filled in, but you can do search and then you can click enroll. It usually helps. It helps me a lot.
There's another great place you can get information. If you go to the homepage, uvault.edu, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see a link that says course schedule. When you click on that, you get some great drop downs. It'll show you whatever schedules are available. So right now you can still see fall, but then you can also see winter and spring 2018. Let's not forget about the winter session. There's stuff going on then that you should check out. And when you click that drop down, you can just search them all, and it'll show you everything that's scheduled. or you can search by discipline, accounting or anthropology, or pick your department. And you can also search within a particular department for a faculty member. If you really want to take a class with Dr. Peters, for example, that's the one you want to search for. And so you can look for it there. I will also let you know that the School of Business, we are working on, with IT, to have our particular schedule put up on a grid, so you can see on Monday, what's offered on Monday at 9 o'clock and Tuesday at 9, and so on and so forth. And it'll be live, fed directly from the system, so you can see what's still there, what's gotten filled up, what might have gotten canceled. So that is coming soon. You'll hear about it first here.
Can you turn off the cast, please?
Well, so hopefully that development will kind of work its way out to several other
Y'all
colleges.
didn't hear that.
But that is a great system that's hopefully coming to fruition. And so another question, this is a little more specific, but one that I think comes up quite often, which is, can a student take a class that requires a prerequisite or take a prerequisite and that same class that's requiring it in the same semester? It's kind of a mouthful to get that out. But so, can a student do that, and why or why not?
I would guess the answer would be no.
Ding, ding, ding.
You are correct.
Oh.
You are correct.
If I had a 16th prize, I would give it to
Oh,
you.
thank you.
But you already have all the prizes.
And my reasoning for why I guess no, because usually the school has to check off that you completed the class, so that way you know what you're doing in the other class, because it's pointless to try to play catch up in the same semester. You're just going to fail, usually one or the other.
You're absolutely correct. The other thing I would add is that all the curriculum is set up so that you're taking courses in a specific sequence, because that knowledge is going to build. And so we want you to take things in that order so that you're prepared for the next chunk of information that you're getting. So that's why we want you to take 101 first, and then 102, and so on, so that you can really kind of use all that information from one class to the next. I will tell you, if you're, let's say you're in our hypothetical 101 class right now, and registration opens, you will be able to register for 102 in the spring. The system will certainly let you do that, because it says, oh hey, they're taking the class right now, and we're going to assume that you're going to pass it. We do go in and check before the start of each semester. We have a process that we run to make sure that everybody who is registered for the upcoming semester has passed the previous class, so that we're not going to let you go forward. We'll work with you and help you find a way to satisfy that requirement.
Excellent. So just a quick reminder to make sure you're liking and sharing this video. We want as many people to see it as possible so that they have this information, because it is really useful. The other thing, and I want to kind of jump back, and this is more of a kind of a statement. So if you want to be your advisor's favorite student, when you schedule that meeting, go ahead and take a look at the courses offered and come with some ideas. Don't say this is exactly what I want, but come with some ideas, because that's going to make that conversation even more fruitful, and they're going to get excited about the fact that you've given some thought into that. And so just a pointer from me here. Another common question, and so I think that this one has a lot of different pieces to it, but oftentimes we hear, what's the maximum number of credits I can take in a semester? What are the minimum credits I need to be considered a part-time and full-time student? And then I'd also like to talk about the ramifications of taking a lot of classes versus kind of a smaller number of classes.
Okay. So most folks, if you're full-time, you're taking 12 credits. That's 4 3-credit classes. You can take a 5th class at 15 credits. There's nothing barring you from doing that, and that's a great way to get another class under your belt at the same tuition price. If you have, at least in the School of Business, a 3.5 or higher, you can request to take an overload of 18 credits, but that is the maximum, and that is for folks that generally are not working, and you have to meet that GPA threshold. If you are taking less than 12 credits, 9 is the number that financial aid is looking for, that is part-time. But that's for undergrads. The graduate students have a different number. 9 credits is full-time if you're a grad student. So keep that in mind, that if there's different numbers for undergrad and grad, and you'll want to make sure that whatever financial aid that you have or scholarships that you have, that you're meeting the credit requirement for that, because it may vary.
Any thoughts on taking more or less classes?
I'd take the bare minimum for full-time. I get stressed out really easily when I have too many classes. I took 5, so I sound like I'm a transfer, so I came from Morgan. I took 5 at Morgan and cried all semester just because I don't like the overload of work. I tell my sister all the time, I'm like, college is really easy, but what'll happen is you'll have like 3 weeks to 4 weeks of no assignments due, usually like homework, and then there's like 2 consecutive weeks of projects and papers and presentations. And if you don't like stress like I do, I just take 4 because then it limits me so I can like map out how to deal with the projects. Also, I'm in a lot of organizations. Like I work for the school and then I'm in 2 clubs, and that's a lot when you're trying to like attend the clubs, attend work on time, and trying to go to school. So I just take 4.
Can I chime in on something?
Go right ahead.
So what I want to say to that is that it's absolutely a balance, and you need to know if you're working full-time or part-time, finding that nice balance between how many classes that you can take and do well in versus the other things that are going on with your life, whether you've got kids or you're caring for a family member. There's a lot of things in play, and we want you to help you find that balance. So see your advisor, but I would also say if you're hitting those stress points, this is a great time to talk to your advisor about the supports that are available to you as a student. The thing that always kind of breaks my heart is when a student comes to me at the end of the semester to tell me, they've been really, really sick, or they had someone pass away in their family and they struggled and they failed a class. The sooner we know about something happening, the easier it is for us to help you. Maybe it's incomplete. Maybe you need to withdraw from the class, and there are deadlines to withdraw. So help us help you. Come see us, or go see the Achievement and Learning Center if you need support from an academic perspective.
That is a great couple of suggestions, and the ALC will actually be joining us for our next broadcast that I'll talk a little bit about in December later on. But I want to jump back to 2 things, some things that have come up in similar conversations with me. Oftentimes, students going straight from undergrad to grad school will think that they were able to manage a certain amount of work for undergrad courses and say, oh, I want to take 4 grad classes. That is a significant jump in the amount of expectations that are required of you. And so just personal advice, don't do that. Think about talking to your advisor and thinking about what's an appropriate amount of work, because the amount required of you in a graduate program definitely jumps up a level. The other piece that I want to just kind of add on to that, and we kind of talked about this already, is considerations to be taking into account when you are scheduling. So obviously, if you're working a full-time job or working a lot, if you have a family or you have multiple things that are playing out for you, those are all things you want to be cognizant of when you're making decisions about classes and how many you're taking and how quickly you're trying to get through school. Because yes, it is completely acceptable to want to try to get through this process as quickly and as efficiently as you can, but you also want to make sure you're getting the most out of it you can. And so sometimes trying to just rush through it actually hurts you. And so just being thoughtful about that, I think, is really important. So the next couple of questions that I have, I think, are actually only going to require one-word answers, so these might be fun. So can I take a mix of general education classes and core classes? So that means yes. So that's a quick one. Next one. Will my advisor automatically register me if I don't?
No.
You got all hostile on it, too.
I thought that was the case. I thought I was set up, and then they were like, did you register? And I was like, what? You ain't do that? And they were like, no. Like, okay.
And added to that, just having classes in your shopping cart and not actually finishing the process of registration does not count.
It doesn't work for Amazon. It will not work here.
That's right.
There you go. So we're going to jump into a couple of quick commercials. Before I do that again, I want to once again promote, you're going to get tired of me hearing say this, make sure that we're liking and sharing this video so as many people can see it as possible, and make sure those questions are still coming in. I have 13 prizes still left for me to give away, and I can't do anything else with them, so please make sure you're claiming them by sending me a question. So next up, we're going to go ahead and hit on our next commercial. So we talked about the Campus Pantry a little bit earlier, and so I want to talk about a specific event that's being sponsored by that office, as well as the Office of Transitions Community Engagement, which is National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week. And so that is a full week of different events that are being sponsored to kind of raise awareness about hunger and homelessness, specifically as issues, but also how they affect college students. And so there are a number of different events that we're going to be sponsoring. There is a documentary on Wednesday, November 15th, 4 to 6 p.m. in the second floor of the Student Center. It's called The Line, and it focuses on the poverty line and what you can be more aware of in terms of people who are living at that line, below that line, and things that are often probably unsaid. And so, great opportunity. Another event that people are really excited for is on Thursday, November 16th, 5:30 to 9 p.m., what we're calling Hungry for Change, a spoken word competition. And so students are able to enter into an opportunity to take part in it by sharing spoken word or poetry. And we have some really great prizes. You can compete individually as well as in a small group. And so first place is a $250 Amazon shopping spree. Second place is $150 Amazon shopping spree. And third place is still $100 for Amazon shopping. And so definitely consider taking advantage of that. Those are some great prizes. If you're interested, you can email Jordan Burkowski to learn more about that. There's also some information on Facebook or OrgSync about that as well. The last event I want to make sure I mention is that during all of the National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Weeks, we're going to be having a food drive, and anything that's donated will go to the campus pantry and kind of continue to serve our campus. And so definitely be on the lookout for information about that. It's a great series of events where you can learn a lot. And then I'm going to turn it over to our last event that I'm going to talk about, which is UB's Got Talent, which is next Thursday, November 2nd, I believe, in the Wright Theater from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's going to be UB's version of American Idol, or America's Got Talent, or whatever that show's called. It's a lot of great opportunities. I'm not cool.
It's a play on a name.
I know that.
You know American Idol.
Because I'm old. Regardless of that, it's a great opportunity to check out some really great talents that our students have. Last year there was a bunch of poetry, there was singers, and so there's a lot of different variations of cool things happening. The other thing is I'm going to be a judge. Anthony behind the camera is also a judge, and so we want you to come out. Definitely check that out. It's hosted by the Student Event Board, and again, it's Thursday, November 2nd in the Wright Theater up on the 5th floor of the Student Center from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So that kind of concludes our commercials for now, and so we'll jump back in. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them out there, but we have a few more that we'll get through, and if we don't hear anything else, then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. And so, important question, and one that I think has some new answers this semester is, so if a student's forgotten who their academic advisor is, their name or their contact information, how can they go about finding that?
Bottom left of your UB portal.
Yeah, so that was a process improvement this year that is now right in your UB portal if you scroll all the way down to the bottom. Are there other ways of finding that information just in case people still are confused?
Well, it's always in your student portal. And then all of the advising information, we did a lot of work this summer getting all that information kind of shoved into the system so you can see it. But you can always find the advising contact information for your specific college on the website.
The other thing that's really important to check out is there have been a lot of campus moves recently, and so make sure you're checking where the new office might be, because that may prevent you from being able to see somebody if you go to the wrong office by accident. So next one, and this one is important, and I think that it's got kind of two pieces to it. So how do you go about registering for an online class? And then a question that I've often gotten as a follow-up is, so once I'm enrolled in that class, how do I actually engage in it? Is it on Sakai? Or how do you go about finding how to actually get into the class?
So you register for an online class the same way that you register for any other kind of class.
Yeah.
So it's the same process. You'll just, normally those sections are designated as WB1, for example, and you'll see a note in the class description that says, this class is an online class. Your Sakai site will open on, it's usually a week before the session starts. So if you're registering for an online class, make sure that you are going into your Sakai site and checking in, reading the syllabus, figuring out what any pre-assignments might be. And then I would say this, that every online class is going to be operated just a little bit differently depending upon the course and the instructor. So some of it might be discussion boards, you might be posting videos, you might be having a chat session with group teammates on a project. It really depends, but it's super important that you're getting in there and finding out when your assignments are due and how you're being told to submit them in Sakai or in another way, and following those instructions.
Good advice. So we already kind of covered the next question, so we'll just go ahead and skip over that one. And we've talked about this next one a lot, but I think that we can just kind of run through again the different places somebody can go. And so if you're really struggling with registering for a class, where can a student go to find help with registration?
See your advisor. See your advisor. Just go see your advisor.
The list of questions we have, all the answers are see your advisor.
Basically, yes.
It's a very good starting point. The only other thing I'll add is if you're having trouble with the actual mechanics of it, you can talk to your advisor. You can also talk to the Office of Records and Registration. They have a lot of working knowledge there, and they also have those great how-to guides to give you kind of a good starting point. So this is the last question that we have gotten in advance, and so if another question comes in, we will definitely go ahead and answer it. But for right now, in the event that you're a student who needs accommodations in some way, so maybe note-taking or any other kind of assistance, does that change the registration process for you, and how do you go about accessing those services?
So as far as changing the registration process, not really, as far as the mechanics of it, but you're definitely going to want to go talk to the wonderful folks in the Office of Disability Services and make sure that you've got all the documentation in place if you are receiving an accommodation. It never hurts to do it beforehand, but after you have registered, definitely go see them if you haven't. Make sure at the beginning of the semester, if you're getting accommodations, that you pick up that accommodations letter and give it to your faculty members. Otherwise, they're not going to know. So make sure that you do that. That's one of your responsibilities. If, for example, that you need, hypothetically, you can't do a class that requires public speaking. Well, this is the time where you go to Disability Services, and we can work with students and with programs and the program directors to help find maybe a way around a particular concern like that. But you need to tell us about it as soon as possible. That's how we can help you.
And I can't stress enough how important that is, and Karen Schultz, who's the director of that office, is wonderful, and she is phenomenal at her job, and so make sure that you seek her out if that is what you need, because she is more than willing to help you in any way she can. So definitely worth checking that out. Any other questions coming in? It looks like we haven't seen anything. So I'm going to go ahead and close things up, and I'm going to go around the table really quickly and say, what is one thing you learned during this discussion today? I did not preempt or prompt this, so it might be on the spot here.
What a degree audit was. I knew what an audited class was, just not a degree audit.
I think we got some insider information about something that's coming out from the American School of Business and hopefully some other colleges soon, which was kind of cool to hear about.
What did I learn?
Sure.
That's a tough question.
You learned about my stress level.
I learned about your stress
Right.
levels, and that you've decided that College of Arts and Sciences is a better choice for your career path, and I fully support you choosing whatever makes you happy. Although you could have been happy in the Merrick School of Business.
I was.
Hashtag just saying.
Don't worry. One of my concentrations at IEIS is still business.
Good.
That's true, she does
See?
talk about it quite a bit.
Lots of ways to work it out. And if I could just have one last plug, please check your email. Please,
Ooh, that's a good
please, check your email. We send you lots of them. I know, we're working on it. But we always are alerting you to maybe when there's some scholarships that you can apply to,
The business
or
was a lot of events.
we have a lot of events going on, or just reminding you that, hey, you haven't registered yet. And if you want us to stop emailing you to get registered, then register. It's very simple. That's how you make us stop emailing you. So do it. Put it on your phone. This is how we contact you.
On that note, a lot of times students will have other email accounts that they use. To your point, if you just type in setting up my email on an iPhone, an Android, whatever you got, if you still have a Windows phone, if that's a thing still, you can set it up that way by jumping on to your ubalt.edu and typing in search, how do I set up my email on my phone? You can also use the Outlook app, which has just come out, that also you can use on your phone. And so there's a lot of great options. And if you are somebody who's connected to your phone a lot, get it on here, because it's going to prompt you to look. And I cannot say enough about how many offices will communicate you through your UB email, which is the official form of communication for the institution. The other thing is if you're sending an email from a personal account, and then something goes to your personal account that's supposed to go to your UB account, it gets crossed up, and people can lose emails that way. So just use your UB email account. It helps you keep everything in one place. I know that was a little confusing, but it happens, I promise you. So as we wrap up, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about one last thing, which is our last Facebook Live broadcast of the semester, which is going to be on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. It is going to be all about finals preparation. So we're going to have someone from the ALC here to talk a bit about how to prepare for final projects, how to make sure that you're studying and getting the most out of studying, and we may even have some relaxation techniques that will be coming to you live on air, so that'll be kind of interesting too. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And lastly, if you have questions even after this broadcast, please feel free to continue to post. We always monitor this video for about a week afterwards because we want it to be a hub for students to be able to get answers to questions that they may not know. So we'll keep sharing and keep answering questions for about a week. So make sure that you are posting them if you have them. Please continue to like and share the video because it'll help more students find the answers to the questions that are really helpful and useful. And as we approach registration, that can be really helpful. Again, November 6th is the first day that you can register as a student, so be aware of that. Thanks, and have a wonderful night.
Bye.